Sean Salisbury here for Open Sports. There's a bunch on my mind, so let me roll through it. I think I've said it, and I'll say it again. The Dallas Cowboys offense is too finesse. They're going to get beat by Philadelphia. Their offense has become a detriment to their football team, and I'll say it if you missed the video yesterday. Tony Romo is not Roger Staubach. Tony Romo is not Troy Aikman. Stop it. But the Cowboys' defense will keep them alive. Who's going to win defensive MVP on my mind? Harrison in Pittsburgh, DeMarcus Ware. Pick one or the other, and you got a chance to win it all, although Ed Reed's pretty good, and so is Troy Polamalu. MVP of this league, I'll say it again, is Peyton Manning, and he's played great football and carried his team. And to Drew Brees probably jumped up. Kurt Warner, even after the blog I said yesterday, has dropped off. Just to reiterate, D'Angelo Williams, how can he not be considered? The Atlanta Falcons know how to go on the road and win, even though they're a better home team. Matt Ryan is doing something. I love watching this kid play. Big-time arm, took care of his business, as did Flacco against the Cowboys. These are not your typical rookie quarterbacks. Tampa Bay Buccaneers still alive. They got the Raiders next week, yes, and they're going to beat Oakland and end up in the playoffs. They're going to win that game. San Diego Chargers still alive, 7-8. Denver Broncos, talk about a team that just laid down against the Buffalo team that couldn't score on me in the last handful of weeks. Well, Buffalo beats Denver at home, and now they got to go to San Diego and play the Chargers for the division. A month ago, this division was over, but the AFC West, get them out. NFC West, get them out. And it's just baffling to me some of the things that are going on. The Jets, they're backing into the playoffs, and they may not get in. I don't think they are. I think the Dolphins win the game, and they are not going to get in the playoffs. And even if they do, talk about a team that doesn't have any confidence or doesn't know what they're about right now. That's the New York Jets. Bad performance by them, and they've played poorly in the last 4 or 5 weeks. And you take a look at New England, and could you imagine if you're 11-5 and don't make the playoffs? How bad would that be? Boy, great, sad commentary, but a tribute to the AFC, which has started to pick up the tempo in the second half of the season. Matt Castle's waiting for a huge payday. It won't be in New England, but it will be somewhere. Philadelphia, come on, December and January is your time. And the Washington Redskins defensively hammered the Philadelphia Eagles. And now they got to beat the Dallas Cowboys at home, but they are still alive. These teams that did control their own destiny don't now, and Philadelphia did, and by losing their game against Washington, they don't. We still got Minnesota and Chicago battling it out, which should be a great game, but Chicago's still got to deal with the Green Bay Packers, which gets me to my Monday night preview also, that the Green Bay Packers, in the game tonight, Green Bay Packers got to do one thing. They've got to stop Matt Forte from making a run, and they've got to find a way to run the ball themselves, because their defense has let them down continuous. So not much to look at in this one. And because if the Bears can throw it too now, as good as Al Harris and Charles Woodson have been, people have been throwing the ball on them. Maybe it's because they're dominating the run against the Packers so much that the coverage team feels so much pressure that they got to gamble and that their gambles aren't paying off. This should be a very, very good football game, but the Chicago Bears are staying alive, and it should come down to the last week into the season. That would be the way it's supposed to be. Who can run it and who can defend the run? There's not much else to look at in this game. You know, both Aaron Rodgers has played well this year. Kyle Orton's had his moments too. It's going to come down to, just like you saw the Giants in Carolina, who's more physical in the football game as we're previewing this football game. And you know what? We got ourselves one great final week of the season in Week 17 next week for a lot of, playoff situations on the line and who's going where and who's going what. And it should be very, very interesting. A couple other things on my mind that are going on in the National Football League. If the Pittsburgh Steelers don't find a way, because I've said it, but they've got to stop turning it over. And Ben was protected the football for about 130 throws, but the fumbles and a couple interceptions cost them. I love the way Roethlisberger plays, but the offensive line's got to find a way to get this done, and they've got to be physical because that's what they do. And I know it's eerily similar for them. The year they went on and won the Super Bowl with injuries and banged up and had to overcome a bunch, and Ben can do it. But there comes a point in time when you're facing good teams that you can't do it. They faced a good team in Tennessee who committed back to their run game with injuries to Albert Haynesworth on defense and got themselves going and put themselves in position to have home field advantage throughout the AFC. Another typical Jeff Fisher team, and why he's such a good coach, understands game situations. And they not only said they could run the ball against Pittsburgh, but they did. Running's an attitude. And teams that run the ball, when all's said and done this season, there may be only one team at the end who's standing around because their quarterback is so good that has not run the ball that in the past has, and that's the Indianapolis Colts, that have relied on one man offensively for the most part to take over. And this could be Peyton Manning's best season, folks. Think about it. Forget the statistics. Could be his best season. That's a good look at the NFL. We've got ourselves a good Monday night game. We've got ourselves a great final week, and there's going to be a lot of fodder and a lot of talk heading into the last week of the season. And I don't feel sorry for the Detroit Lions, folks. I'm sorry, I just don't. To do what they did yesterday when they were 0-14, they're the ones who put themselves in position for us to talk about them. Don't feel sorry for them, and I normally would. I mentioned it. Like I said, this is just a reiteration of some of the things I said after the early games yesterday. But now after the late games and heading into this week, I'm really, really impressed with some of the things the teams like Atlanta are doing. And finally, the Miami Dolphins. We talked about and how good Tony Sperano's been. I love the way they play football. Simple. Bill Parcells is the executive of the year, and if you don't recognize that, then maybe you just don't understand football. I'm Sean Salisbury for Open Sports.
So you think you can tackle a pro? There's only one way to find out. Click on fantasy at opensports.com.